Hello, Ranger fans. This is your favorite guy that's super obsessed with Power Rangers, aka the Golden Green Ranger. Welcome back to the channel, and if this is your first time at the channel, thanks for clicking on this video. Makes me feel warm and fuzzy inside. Anyway, I did something the other day. I went on one of those YouTube rabbit holes. If you don't know what that is, that's basically when you click on a video and it keeps recommending other videos to you based off your analytics and other interests. And I found another video I found interesting. Now, I'm not going to name drop the video in it because that's just not my place to do. On top of that, I kind of frustrated that I gave this individual a view. And I did watch the entire video because I'm going to react to it. And I'm not going to react to something that I just picked and choose parts that I wanted to talk about. I gave the guy the entire view. And he said something I found extremely ignorant and frustrating. And I want you to hear me out, because I'm not just trying to bash somebody online. I'm trying to understand why this person had this opinion. And the opinion was because Izzy came out as openly gay in Power Rangers Dino Fury, the show is now too woke and it's trying to appeal to the LBQT community. I'm pretty sure I didn't say that right, and I do apologize. But it's trying to appeal to the gay community was basically what he was saying. And that the show is too woke now. And all I could think of is, what freaking show are you watching? What show have you been watching that you think Power Rangers is too woke now? Now, I want you to hear what I have to say. I'm not here to talk about whether integration in film is necessary, important, or anything like that. That's your opinion, and I'm not here to talk about that. I'm here to talk about exactly what he said. The show is changing now to appeal to a wider audience, and that's what's hurting it. And I also went into the comments to see that some people actually agreed with him. People saying things like, oh, the SJW community is ruining another great franchise because it's trying to appeal to everybody. To which all I could think is, what freaking show have you been watching? And trust me, I wasn't saying freaking in my mind. I'm frustrated by this video because I've been a lifelong Power Ranger fan, as you guys know that watch my videos. I think the franchise is way better than a lot of people give it credit for, and I think it's probably one of the better written shows that have been on for almost 30 years by this point. And the frustrating thing is, as an adult Ranger fan that's been watching it since 1993, I get to look back and realize the show has always been all-inclusive since 1993. And the fact that somebody really had the nerve to say that the show is too woke now, it just makes me think maybe you haven't been actually really watching the show. Maybe you didn't watch it at all and just wanted to make a YouTube video about something you read online. Or maybe you watched the show and really said, oh, it's just about some teenagers in spandex fighting monsters. Because to say that the show is too, quote-unquote, woke now, that tells me you've kind of missed the point about Power Rangers. And what do I mean by that? I started watching the show in 1993. I remember it. If you guys remember, it used to come on before school, and it was a smash hit. It was about 5 teenagers with attitude that got recruited by Zordon to fight the evil Rita Repulsa in her little lair on the moon where apparently you can breathe. But we're not going to talk about that right now. We're talking about the show that started in 93. And in 93, there was 5 different teenagers, and they were all completely different. You had the brainy, nerdy kid named Billy, who was friends with Jason, the jock, who was also friends with the dancer and the charming hip-hop guy, Zach, who was also friends with the princess / gymnast / valley girl, Kimberly, who's also friends with Trini, the Yellow Ranger, who happened to be brainy just like Billy, just you could understand her, unlike Billy, because she was basically his translator, especially in the first season. They were 5 characters, all completely different, that just happened to be friends. And the show never stopped to explain why. It just said, hey, all 5 of these people are friends. And why the show decided to do that in 1993 was so every kid that watched that show could say, hey, that's me, basically. Granted, we all wanted to be Jason in 93. But maybe you were the brainy kid. Maybe you were into hip-hop. Maybe you were brainy, but you could articulate better than other brainy people. Maybe you were into fashion. Everybody got represented in that original 5 team. And it didn't necessarily need to explain why they were friends. That was the brilliant thing about the show was it was 5 teenagers with attitude that were all different, that were friends. Friends, mind you, the closest friends. It's not like Zordon recruited them and they got close afterwards. They were literally hanging out in the juice bar prior to that and had known each other for years. But the show is too woke now, right? Even though it did that in 93. 93, mind you. But I hear you saying, Jesse, that's just one little example. When else has a show been woke? Which, by the way, I've never been a big fan of that phrase, but we're not here to talk about that. When else has a show tried to be inclusive of individuals? How about in 97, when Jason David Frank, Tommy, decided he was leaving the show, and they casted a black individual to play the Red Ranger, TJ. That was in 97. 97 that happened. Okay? We had our first black Red Ranger who was leading the team, and nowhere did the show have to stop and say, hey, look what we did. He just happened to be Tommy's replacement that happened to be black. That was it. To the point where when I was watching in 97, I didn't understand the gravity of the notion because to me, I was like, man, Tommy's leaving. That sucks. Oh, this new Red Ranger's pretty cool. Okay, let's move on. That was in 97. 97. I really feel like had they done that nowadays, you would have had somebody on the internet crying saying, oh, we always have to have a black guy as a leader now, right? That was in 97. Nobody cried. Nobody complained. All right? Nobody had to stop. The show didn't have to advertise it for weeks that they were going to do it. Literally, if you guys remember in 97, the advertisement for the new team was, there's new heroes in town, the song, which explained that there was new Rangers coming aboard. That was it. That was in 97. But the show is too woke now. In 2001, Time Force, who, by the way, Time Force an amazing season. I got to make a video about how great that series was, too. They had a female leader, okay? And I don't mean like they had to stop and every 4 seconds look at the camera and say, hey, I'm a leader that happens to be female. They just happened to have a female leader. That was it. She was in charge of the Time Force Rangers. Jen Scott. That was it, okay? That was in 2001. 2001. It just hit puberty. They did that. But the show's too woke now, right? Even though that happened in 2001. And once again, because I think I was maybe 13 at the time, I didn't understand the gravity of the motion. I didn't understand that it was a big deal to me. Oh man, Jen Scott's really cool. She's super pretty, and she's the leader of the team. That's awesome. That's all I thought. It was another really cool Power Ranger season. That's all they had to do. That was in 2001. Not to mention, in 2001, during Time Force, they legit addressed racism. Like, something, once again, I missed until watching it as an adult years later going, man, Eric, the Quantum Ranger, really wants to kill that mutant because he looks different. And at the end of the day, he's judging the mutant by the way he looks. You know, I don't know, something that we're always dealing with nowadays. Racism. Well, not nowadays, it's been around forever. But you get my point. The point being, literally, because of the toxicity of the internet and how people can just make everything a bigger deal than it actually is, somebody had that episode come out now, had gone in and cried that Power Rangers was addressing racism now. At the end of the day, in 2001, the showrunner said, hey, we have an opportunity right now to explain racism to children in an easier way to digest. And they did it, as simple as that. But this individual had the nerve to say that Power Rangers is too woke now. I'm going to make a part 2 to this video and get into why I think Power Rangers has done integration and representation better than any other franchise. And I'll get into that in part 2. But I want to leave off on this note. David Yost, the actor who played Billy Cranston on Power Rangers, who stayed longer than any of the original Rangers, all the way up into Zeo, he left the show because in real life he was getting verbally abused on set because he was gay. And that's unfortunate. But that was the 90s. It was a different work environment. And I'm not justifying saying it was okay, because he had every right to be frustrated and walk off a set the way he did. And to be honest, I think it took a lot of courage to do that. In an interview, he came out and said that he was called the F word one too many times, and that day he just wasn't taking it and he walked off set. And I don't blame him whatsoever. And the fact is that now that we have an openly gay Ranger on the team, when in the 90s somebody was bullied enough that he quit the show because he was gay, shows progression in a great way. And if that really bothers you, maybe the problem's with you. The only unfortunate thing is it took so many years to finally address that. And once again, I don't know David Yost. All I can say is from what I've seen, that took a lot of courage. I'm not a gay man, and I don't understand probably the abuse he went through to go through that. But the fact is, he did a brave thing and walked off a set. And Power Rangers Dino Fury literally now has an open gay Ranger. That shows the progress that show has made. And I think that's awesome. And I think the average person would think that's awesome. And I want to point out, once again, and I've said this in past videos, Izzy's character didn't change. She didn't start wearing rainbows and, talking about, how she's gay. She was the same character she's always been. She just happens to date women. And that's an awesome way to represent any community. That everybody's different, but it doesn't make them, a crazy different person. She's a Power Ranger that happens to be gay. That's just the end of it. Probably could have worded that better, but I'm frustrated still from watching this other video. But that's just the ramblings of, I'm not even going to say a madman. That's just a rambling of somebody that feels like they've kind of understood the franchise and understood the fact that they've always tried to be open and try to represent multiple different groups. So, comment below what you think. Am I wrong? Am I right? Is my opinion valid? Or maybe I've gone on too much about this. I'm curious to know what you think. But honestly, I think any Ranger fan kind of understands where I'm coming from. Especially watching the show nowadays as an adult. With kids, I see it completely different. I have many kids. I have a few kids. And I get to watch them watch the show. And the fact that they watch it the same way as I did as a kid, with just nice rose-colored glasses, not seeing the impact of things, just happen to see Rangers that might look a little bit like them, is awesome, and I appreciate that. So, anyway, that's enough of me today. There's going to be a part 2 where we'll talk about how the show has done integration and including people in diversity better than any other franchise. But look forward to that in part 2. But for now, may the power protect you.